Or I was doing this work with Orna, and back way back when I was younger and I had a job, a job, as we say around here. Um, I did this weird thing where I'd be in the shower in the morning, getting ready for work, and in my head I'd start like having these conflicts with, particularly my boss, who I didn't care for at the time, and I'd start like imagine if he said this, and then I would respond with that, and this would go on, and we'd get this elaborate scenario that I'd play out in my mind. And by the time I got out of the shower, I was like ready to be done with work, and I hadn't even left yet. And it was really starting to become a problem, because I was getting really sort of defensive at work and all this stuff, and I wasn't enjoying myself. And so one day, in the shower, while I'm doing this little thing, right, where I'm imagining
Yes.
my boss saying something, and I'm like, just gonna quit my job, right, if he says that, and I just started laughing in that moment. I just started laughing, and something in my mind said, well, that's not true. You're just making that up. And it just was hilarious to me because I realized I was just making things up, and the things I was making up were then causing me to feel really crappy about like going to work, which I needed to do to pay my bills, right? And that's really what we're talking about today. I know that sounds like a real roundabout way of getting there, but what we're talking about today is mindset, your thoughts, and how your thoughts affect everything when it comes to love, dating, and relationship.
Well, I mean, every part of your life.
Yes,
Not just
well, yeah,
I
every
mean,
part
we're
of your life.
focusing on love, dating, and relationship, but
Oh,
I
yeah.
think, you started with the job thing, and I was giggling as you were telling it. I mean, I know the story, but
Yeah.
also I'm giggling with like a familiarity, like going, oh, I've done that, right? So who's listening right now going, oh, I've done that, right? Oh, I've done that. Because there's this thing where we make stuff up. Like we're always having a dialogue, a silent dialogue in our own head about ourselves and about the world and about whether it's going to work or
Uh-huh.
trying to find a date or going on a date or whatever it is. And the truth is how you're thinking about a problem, any problem you may have, is actually part of the problem.
Exactly.
Anything. So today, of course, we're hosting Love Intervention. Hello, I'm Orna
And I'm
Walters.
Matthew Walters, and we are here to intervene in the tragedies and drama of your love life and get you on the path to long lasting, soul satisfying love.
Yeah. And it doesn't have to be that tragic. I
Right.
mean, it could just be simply that you're like, dude, I don't know where to get a date. Right. I mean, I would say the biggest mindset shift that people mistake as a problem isn't actually the real problem. So if we're just going
Hmm.
to put it on the table right here at the beginning,
All right.
I would say I want to hear in the chat, wherever you are, whether you're Facebook, YouTube, what was thing we on Vimeo,
Vimeo.
yeah, wherever
Or
you
you're
are.
you're here on the broadcast page. Right?
Yeah, if you're on the broadcast page, great. But if you're somewhere else, put it in there too in the comment. I just want to hear a yay or a nay, right? Who can relate to this making stuff up that hasn't even happened yet? Anybody? Anybody? Just like kind of like raise your hand. Give us a hand, a yay, a nay, whatever. I just want to know because here's the thing. I want to hear from those of you who think your age is part of the problem for why you don't have the love relationship you want.
Hmm.
I want to hear from those people.
Interesting.
Age.
Age.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what we're talking about here is what we call the think, feel, do cycle.
Oh, you jumped there.
I'm going to go right there.
I have one more thing to say before we go there.
Before we get to think, feel, do, Orna's got one more thing to say.
Yeah. So I talked about age.
Yeah.
But I mean, we've been doing this almost 2 decades or whatever it's been.
We've been doing a long time.
A long time. We've talked to literally we've talked to a lot more people than we've actually, had on board as clients. We've had
Right.
thousands of clients, right? And we've helped all those thousands of people. So here's the thing I want you to understand. And most people think their age is a problem in the dating process, whether they're too young or too old, or they're left behind, like timing, age, or the number 2, you want to give it up?
Number 2 is where you live.
Yep. And whether it's a bustling metropolis or a tiny rural town, it's a problem. And what we want to say is it's not the actual problem. So Jay says, yes, I feel age eliminates me from men's awareness. So what we want to say to you is that's actually not part of the problem, but it is part of the way that you're thinking about the problem makes it part of the problem.
So what happens is our beliefs. Let's say it this way: everybody thinks that we get our beliefs from our experiences of the world around us. So I only believe something because I see it happen, right? But the truth is, it's really fascinating because it actually happens the other way around.
It really does.
You believe something, and then you go looking for evidence of it being true, right? Oh, we're getting some great limiting beliefs. We're going to get to that in a second.
Yeah, this is good stuff. Yeah, keep them coming.
All right.
This is great stuff.
So you believe something, and then what your brain does, because your brain, loves to create narratives, and it loves to create what we call homeostasis, right? It loves to keep things the same. And so what your brain does is it looks for evidence of your belief. And when you see anything that's close, your brain goes, see, it's real. Bing, see, it's real. And when you collect enough evidence, you go, well, it's just a truth now. It's not something I think might be true, or I speculate might be true, or I'm guessing is true. You actually now believe it to actually be true.
Which means you have more of those experiences, which then reinforce the belief, and you're in this little hamster wheel, right? Where you're having the same experiences, So I will say, I'm going to use myself as an example. I used to think all men would cheat. It's kind of funny to think about that now. Yeah, I used to think all men would cheat. Well, I remember my self-esteem was in the toilet.
Right.
So I never thought anybody would really pick me, for real, in public. Right? Like I didn't think.
I just want to take that version of you and just give her a hug and say, it's okay.
But it's true. I never thought anybody would tell somebody they wanted to date me or present me as the girlfriend or, anything else. So I was the other woman. It's I have a lot of shame around it still, admitting it, but I was the other woman a lot because I didn't have very much self-esteem. And so I was looking for crumbs. I would accept the crumbs of love. Your self-esteem kind of has to be in the toilet, to settle for somebody's, other, to be the other woman. And I really just didn't, I kept thinking that something would happen with those men, that something would change, or those guys, whatever, even when I was younger. I mean, I remember really early on, dating a guy who actually had a girlfriend where we all worked together, but he lied, right? He said, oh, we have an agreement not to date anyone else from work. That was a lie. I didn't know at the time. That was a lie. So I was like, oh, they're not in an exclusive relationship, right? It was the justification, right? They're not exclusive. They're just not supposed to date other people. That's how that whole thing got started.
Creepy. I just say
I know the whole thing is creepy, but it's I bought into it because I was like, oh, here's maybe an opportunity for me to get some love, approval, acceptance, right? You know what I mean? So whatever I wasn't getting. So this limiting belief about all men will cheat is sort of this ghost of my past.
Okay.
Right. It's a ghost of the past version of me because I mean, even when we started dating, you'd be in your office sometimes 9, 10 o'clock. I remember we went to somebody's house for a house call and you were out till after 11, I think, or something. And never in a million years did it pop into my head that there was something going on with you and a client, ever, never. And so it but I think I also busted that myth long before I got to you. I had other experiences of men. I always say my last few boyfriends before you were all good men.
Well, I'm going to stop for a second because you're saying you had other experiences which busted the belief. I'm saying you busted the belief and allowed you to have other experiences.
Exactly. You're right. I said it backwards and you corrected it.
No worries.
So we wanted you to think about your limiting beliefs and how they're actually formed, because Matthew glossed over something really important. He said that your brain is meant to sort of keep you in a homeostasis. So we all know to stay alive, your body has to stay in this little narrow balance beam, sort of this little range, this small little range of temperature and heart rate and all these things, right, that keep your brain, functioning, your heart pumping blood and your lungs expanding and contracting in the air and all that good stuff. So for you to stay alive, physically alive, you have to stay in this little homeostasis of your organs functioning within this certain range, right? Blood pressure, all of these different things.
Right.
And what we want you to know is it's the same for your thoughts and your behavior. Ding, 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 ding.
So oftentimes people will say to us, a client we're working with, I keep having this thought. And then I get stuck on, well, why am I thinking about this? Why do I keep thinking about this? Right. And what's interesting about the mind is when there isn't something else to occupy it, right? When you're not working on a task or, focused on something specifically, when you're just kind of going about your day doing whatever and letting your mind sort of wander, your brain is going to fill in that space with old habitual thoughts.
Well, they're current habitual thoughts.
Current habitual thoughts, but I mean old meaning they're old habits. They're not new habits,
yes,
right? They come from the
new.
past.
Yeah.
And so the answer to why do I keep thinking this is because you used to think it a lot and it became a habit to think it. And so your mind throws it in there when there's nothing else in the space and says, oh, here's something you usually think about. Let me give you that back, right? And so all of this, I'm going to come back around. We teased it before, the think, feel, do, and then we're going to get to your questions because you've got some great ones.
There's some really good questions in here. Keep them coming, by the way.
The think, feel, do cycle. So you think something, you have a thought. That thought then triggers an emotional experience about the thought. And then that affects what you do. It affects your actions, right?
Or inaction.
Right. In that case.
So think, feel, do, if you don't mind me jumping in.
Go ahead.
There's the thought you have, and most people don't realize there's a thought before the feeling, but they're experiencing life and suddenly a feeling comes over them and they don't realize there was an internal, like silent thought and this inner dialogue with yourself that triggered that feeling. So the first thing is to know what your emotional patterns are, because once you know those emotional patterns, then you can dig deeper to get the thoughts that are then triggering the feeling. So in the think, feel, do cycle, you want to work backwards. So if you're doing or not doing something that you don't want to do, like Maya says something, this used to be mine, by the way, Maya says popped out. So she says, I become jealous and possessive. What do I do? I totally used to do that. I was like, I'm a totally different person. And then I read what it says about me. You're like, I'm like a different person. I was like, oh, ding, ding, ding. We're like, sisters from a different mother. I don't know. But here's the thing. When there's this disconnect, right? Like I become a different person. What we want you to know is it's not that you become a different person. It's that you have different strategies when your heart is on the line. Right. So your heart isn't invested romantically, say with a family member or a coworker or a friend, even like a male friend, or somebody maybe that you dated, but now you're friends with. Your heart's not on the line anymore, right? It's not going to work out with this person. And even though you might see them, it's like, it's not that you become a different person. It's that you aren't as resourceful. That's a word you're going to hear us use a lot tonight. So what we're talking about tonight on Love Intervention is your mindset. How you think about the problem is actually part of the problem. More important than what you actually think is the problem. Like most people think through the dating process, it's their age is a problem or where they live is a problem. Those are the two most common things we hear all the time, age and location. We want you to know it's never your age. It's never your location. It's not where you are, and it's not how long you've been on planet Earth in this incarnation. But we are here to help you. It's Love Intervention, and I am Orna Walters.
And I'm Matthew Walters, and we're here to intervene in your love life and get you on the path to long-lasting, soul-satisfying love. If you're on Facebook, give us a like. Give us a share. You can ask your questions or comment right there on the Facebook Live.
Yep. And if you're on YouTube, please click the little bell wherever it is. And I don't know where to point, but click the bell, subscribe. It'll let you know the next time we're live. And you can also right there on YouTube in your comments, our team will port them over. Thank you, team. Couldn't do this without you. They will bring your questions over to us here on the live stream in Vimeo. If you're here on the event page in Vimeo, great. You can just type your questions or comments right there into the box. We have some great questions tonight. We're talking about your mindset.
Yeah.
Einstein has this great quote, and I think it's kind of similar, not exactly, but I like to think about it because I think so many of us feel broken. Like I felt really like broken. I felt so like I could really, my career path was moving by leaps and bounds, but my love life was stuck and stagnated. And
I would say for me, I just thought I wasn't relationship material.
Oh.
That was my, brokenness. It's like I thought, oh, you know what? I'm just not good relationship material. I don't even think I ever want to get married, to be honest with you.
See, I want to hug that little. I want to hug little Matt.
Oh, you're so sweet.
I want to hug young man Matt. Young man Matt. Right. And I just think it's this thing where, on some level, we're talking about the human condition in some ways. We all feel somehow like we're broken, like it didn't work out just right. And what I want to say is you're stuck partly with whatever you think the problem is, right? Because of how you're thinking about the problem. So when we go into this think, feel, do cycle, a lot of people get stuck on the think, feel, and then they don't do, right? They're stuck in apathy. They're stuck in thinking it's futile.
Like they've given up. Right?
It's a lost hope.
They're cynical. They've given up.
Yeah. And what we want to say, if you're cynical about love, then that just means you're a disappointed romantic.
Yeah.
Because you can't be cynical about love unless at some point you had the hope and the optimism to have a really great, yummy, right, romantic relationship. And it's the disappointment that you've experienced that then flipped the switch and turned you into a cynic. So if you're feeling it all cynical, and if you're feeling it all apathetic, we want to let you know hope is great if all you have is hope, but there's no action in hope, right? If you just sit at home going, oh, I hope my soulmate shows up. I hope my soulmate shows up. I hope I meet my soulmate
keep
today.
Ordering Postmates, right?
But you never leave the house. You think the Postmates delivery person is going to be your soulmate. You're in trouble, right? So hope is great if hope is all you have, but you have to have more than hope because you have to take some action. You have to take action. And so we've busted this myth. That's why we can say it's not where you live and it's not how old you are, because we've literally busted that over and over and over and over and over again with every kind of culture, race, religion, belief system, mindset. And we've busted it over and over because these are the most common things that hold people back, because they're like, well, I can't do anything about my age. I mean, I didn't get married. We didn't get married till over 40. It's not like we're high school sweethearts or we met in college or something. I mean, most of our friends were long married off and pumping out,
exactly
third or fourth or fifth kid by the time we got together.
So let's look at where this stuff really comes from. So I want to go to Maya, right? Because Maya's got this great story about, she says, when I'm with someone that I really, really, really like, I'm a different person, right? Some of my past boyfriends tell me that I'm a great friend, but they don't want to date me, and she becomes jealous and possessive. So what does she do to ease that so that she can find her soulmate? Well, the first place you want to look, Maya, is you want to look in your family of origin. You want to look at your early childhood. We're talking about before the age of 8. And you want to spend some time sort of delving into that part of your life and looking at that relationship with your parents, really. And if your parents weren't present, whoever it was in your life that was that role for you. And you're going to find that the seeds of this behavior are in that. And here's one of the ways you can do it. So when you think about being jealous and possessive, right, because that's the feeling part, can you take it backwards and discover the story that you're telling yourself about yourself in that situation? We always say it this way, what are you saying to yourself about yourself? And oftentimes that makes people go, what?
Yeah.
Right, what are you saying? And the truth is, we all have an inner dialogue. We all have an inner story where we're talking to ourselves. We're commenting on, right? You make a mistake and you go, oh, I'm so stupid. Why do I keep doing that, right? Or that's an obvious kind of inner dialogue of what am I saying to myself about myself. But oftentimes the stories that we're telling ourselves about the things that are happening around us are really stories about ourselves. And so it's looking at what is that inner dialogue? What are you saying to yourself? And then using that to start okay, where else does this story show up in my life, right? How does it show up in my childhood? How does it show up in other relationships? Or does it even show up in other relationships? And you can start to unravel the source of this wounding.
Yeah.
Because that's really key. I mean, you first got to go, okay, how did I get here? And once you do that, then, you could really do the deeper work of the healing, which is really what we do, right? And if you're interested in exploring what that deeper work looks like, you can always email us at support@loveonpurpose, and we'll connect with you, and we can go deeper into how that works.
Yeah, and I just want to ask that our team put the email right into the chat box so everyone can see it. So it's support, SUPPORT, at loveonpurpose.com. Just email us there, say, I caught your love intervention. I'd love to jump on a call. We'll schedule a discovery call and see how we can help you. I think for the most part, people expect to get some kind of cookie cutter answer from us, and we're never going to hear that from us, because we really pride ourselves that every person is kind of wired a little bit differently. There isn't like a one size fits most when it comes to your heart or healing your heart or finding your match. There are some strategies for dating, mating, and relating that are certainly commonplace for people, right? However, it's not that there's some overarching, when it comes to your childhood, for example, or your wounding or your limiting beliefs about love, it's not like there's some cookie cutter formula for everybody. So today, we just want to look at mindset and how your mindset is really messing with your success. So I want to read Yvette's, and I wonder.
I was going to go there as well.
Okay, great. So I'm going to read it, and you start.
You got it.
Okay, great. I'm going to toss it to you. So Yvette says, I have a limiting belief that men are irresponsible. My dad and every guy I've dated has been immature, selfish, and irresponsible. I attract and choose men who need mothering, and I overfunction in the relationship. How do I up level and attract an equal partner? So it's a great question because it says you've really delved into this. You're using all of these terms like overfunction and you're attracting these kind of men. And how do you up level? So the first thing, I know I said I was going to talk to you.
I know. I'm
sorry, but I lied. I'm going to take it back. Then you can answer because I think I want to address this before we address anything else. When you say I attract, fill in the blank, and this is true for anybody listening, I attract, fill in the blank, that's actually incorrect. You've got the magnet pointing in the wrong direction. You don't have a magnet for attracting irresponsible men. You find men attractive who are irresponsible. Yeah. And when I say that, you're probably like, no, Orna, I'm telling you, I don't find those kinds of men attractive, but I know it's true because every guy you've dated has been immature, selfish, and irresponsible by your own admission. So what we want to say is men who are immature, selfish, and irresponsible, aka like your dad, are familiar to your subconscious mind. And when a particular kind of person is familiar to your subconscious mind, they will be highlighted in the world, and your subconscious will be giving off this signal. This is familiar. This is familiar. And you, Yvette, and or whoever else is listening that can relate to this, misconstrues that ding, ding, this is familiar, this is familiar, this is familiar, this alarm that's going off. And you think, oh my God, this must be my person. And I'm going to tell you why, and I'm going to use myself as an example as well. So if you don't know my story, I'm going to say it really quick because I tell it all the time. It's part of my bio. Hi, I'm Orna Walters. I'm a survivor of domestic violence. On New Year's Eve of 1994, the boyfriend I lived with at the time tried to kill me. I'm only alive here today because our front door wasn't closed and the neighbor came in and saved my life. So how did I end up there? That was a big price to pay for just having it be familiar that love and pain are intertwined. But that's the price I paid because in my family of origin, I love you meant I could do anything to you, meaning I could even beat you. And so I grew up with a home filled with emotional and physical abuse. So I picked a guy in my late 20s who I really thought was the guy. Like I was drawn to him like bees to honey. And I jumped right into this relationship and I almost lost my life. So it's why we're doing this work in a sense. Why I do this work is because I want to help people unravel those familiar bells and whistles and have it be what it really is, which is, oh, this is familiar. Uh-oh, if you come from a family where, or like you don't want the guy who's immature, selfish, and irresponsible. Right. You want to up level, you got to know how it's happening. So you don't have a magnet attracting ding, ding, these kinds of men. You are actually highlighting. There's your mind.
Those men have magnets and you're going ding,
ding, ding, ding, ding, and you're selecting them because it's a false positive. So the positive is what you're filling in for that signal to mean. So back to this is familiar. This is familiar. Ding, 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 ding. And specifically for Yvette or anyone else who wants to break this cycle, tap in to that sensation, that body sensation. So I want everybody to take a minute and like close your eyes, put your feet flat on the floor, and rest your hands just in your lap. And picture the sensation you feel in your body that says, this must be my person. The thing that you go, oh my gosh, this is what I've been looking for. Not where it ended up, but how it felt at the very beginning. Now, we're not going to take time right now, but I want you to come back later. This is on the recording anyway, but I want you to start writing about and journaling a bit about what the sensation is. What does it feel like? This is my person sensation that you've been having with the people that turn out to be not your person.
Yeah.
And I want you to realize that that sensation, wherever it is in your body and however it feels to you, is the false positive. It's the false positive. I'm going to send it back to you.
You're going to do that now, huh?
I'm going to do it now.
Okay. So I want to talk about a couple of things. Orna already did the attract versus attracted to piece, which is really key to understanding. And the other piece is this, over functioning in the relationship. So I'm going to call it something else. I'm going to say you have a strategy for getting love that says you have to be the one who's competent. You have to be the one who's in charge. You have to be right, and that's
the responsible.
You're the responsible one. That's your strategy for getting love, right? So you are attracted to men who need mothering, who are irresponsible, and you have a strategy to try to get love from them by being the responsible one. As you say, you're over functioning, right? So when you think about it that way, you go, oh, okay, so first off, I can recognize my attractions and I can have a different response, right? And here's what I mean by that. So when Orna said there's that alarm that goes off, this is familiar, this is familiar, this is familiar, it feels kind of exciting when you have that alarm. Now, what's interesting is how many, motivational speakers will say, well, fear and excitement feel the same way in the body. It's just how you're thinking about it. So take that fear and turn it into excitement. Right. And they're usually talking about, when you got to step out and do something that's uncomfortable, right? Maybe you got to get up and speak on stage in front of a bunch of people and you're feeling a lot of fear. You got to go, no, I'm really excited to share my message. That's why I'm having these butterflies. Right. However, if it's true that fear oftentimes is actually excitement, what if excitement was actually fear? And what if that ding, 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 this is familiar, was actually your brain going, warning, 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 irresponsible man. Warning, 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 irresponsible man. So
in my case, warning, 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 abuser can hurt you, will physically hurt you, will try to kill you.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. So the first step when you say, how do I up level and quote unquote attract an equal partner? The first thing you do is you recognize the false positive and you go, okay, run away. This is not my guy.
So you go,
I have that old feeling, not my guy. The second thing you want to do is you want to start looking at your strategies for love, right? If your strategy is to be the responsible one, you got to go, okay, so how do I, in a sense, let's say it this way. That means you're being the masculine energy in the relationship.
Bingo.
And you're attracted to men who are in their feminine energy, right? Because that's the role. You're playing, the over-functioning, the being the responsible one, the one who takes care of things and gets it done, that's masculine energy. So you need to go, okay, so how do I, and what does it look like and what does it feel like to be in my feminine energy?
Which is receptive.
Right.
Which is responsive.
Which is about changing your strategies, right? And the mistake people make is, once again, they think of feminine as weak or passive, which it is not.
Nope, it is
feminine is anything but weak or passive. Just spend a little time with my lovely wife here and you'll see that she's very feminine, but she is not weak or passive.
Yeah, or, it's not Father Nature, right? So if you've ever been in a storm, you damn well know that feminine has nothing to do with being passive. So these are energetics that play out in every relationship. And it can be heterosexual, homosexual, it doesn't really matter about the relationship. It's actually, I love it when we spin it to look at same-sex couples, because when you look at same-sex couples, it's really obvious which of the two people is more in their feminine energy and which of the two people is more in their masculine energy, even when the gender is the same.
Right.
So we're not talking about gender here. We're talking about energetics and how you present through the dating and relationship, the dating, mating, and relating part of being in a romantic relationship. And it's unfortunate because what most women do, and I'm curious for Yvette specifically, if she experiences this, that in the beginning of the relationship, it's like you find yourself later on, right after you're dating the person a while, mothering and over functioning, but it didn't start that way. And suddenly you're like, wait, I'm doing all this stuff I don't want to be doing. How do I get him to do those things? Or if you've ever had that experience, and you may have had it and then now you're stuck in the, I know what not to do, but what do I do? I don't know where you are along the journey. But I want you to sort of have this understanding that things show up for you to examine them. So, I want to talk about this mindset thing because this mindset piece is so important. So we're going to go back to the beginning, but first I'm going to say, hello, everybody. Thanks for joining us. I am Orna Walters.
And I'm Matthew Walters, and this is Love Intervention. We are here to intervene in your love life and get you on the path to the long-lasting, soul-satisfying love that you really desire.
So wherever you are out on the interwebs, if you're on our Facebook page, our YouTube channel, wherever you got a question or a comment for us, put it over there in the comments, wherever you are. Our team will port it over here. Thank you, team, to the live event page on Vimeo. And thank you for joining us live tonight. These questions are rocking and rolling. I don't know that we're going to get a chance to get to everybody, but thank you so much. Your participation means the world to us. So we were speaking with Yvette around this idea about attracting versus attracted to, attracting a partner. It's not a passive thing that happens. So you want to look at first that piece, and then also, like Matthew was saying, about your strategies for love. And what I want to say about that, your mindset affects your strategies for love. Like there are people that believe,
feel, do, right?
Yeah. But there's a lot of these people that believe that, it's just going to magically happen.
Right.
Everything in life, everything we want, right? Like to be healthy, fit, in shape, financial abundance, confidence, whatever, all of these things, you can do certain things to get. Right. But when it comes to love, we're just going to play the lottery.
Right.
Yeah. And it's just going to magically happen.
I'm going to find my golden ticket.
Yeah. I'm going to... Exactly. And I just, it's so preposterous to think that love, like selecting a life partner, is left to chance. And what we want to say is it's not left to chance, it's up to you. So if you haven't sort of mastered the idea of how to select a life partner, that you might want to invest some time and energy into discovering how to select an ideal life partner. Because our feelings change, right? Our habitual thoughts and strategies stick with us, but our feelings are changing all the time, right? Like I love this man. Can you tell? Like I love him. Like, I just love him. I want to eat him up. I love him with every cell of my being. However, I promise you, I've been rage-filled at Matthew, right? I mean, we live together. We spend a lot of time together. So I have been angry at him so very many times. And yet, my love for him is enduring and growing all the time. So love is a constant in our relationship. I know it's not for a lot of others, and that's why you're here. But what I want to say is if I'm joyful in the moment or I'm angry in the moment or whatever it is, those feelings are temporary. So how are you supposed to select a life partner based on a feeling? I have thought this was insane, even when I was like in the first grade. I thought this is a ridiculous idea because even in the first grade, I knew my feelings changed. And I thought, well, this is silly, and I never thought I'd get married. Like, I remember once my parents had friends over and they asked me something I don't remember. And I was like, well, I don't think I ever want to live with my husband. Can I get married? And maybe we just live across the street from each other, right?
Which is ironic because you actually do the exact opposite of that.
I spend every minute with you.
Exactly.
365, 24/7. So I just want you to really understand, like, there's so much that goes into selecting a life partner. We're taking this one little slice at the beginning that has really nothing to do about the other person, right? We're not talking about dating. We're not talking about the selection process. We're talking about you and your relationship with yourself.
So I'm going to jump in if you don't mind.
Please do.
Yvette responds, and this is great. Thank you, Yvette. Yvette says, thank you so much for answering my question. It makes a lot of sense. Yes, that happens. And then I get resentful to them for underfunctioning. So there's another piece, and we're going to give you a lot here, Yvette, because that's what we do. What you're talking about, the resentment, where that comes from, and this is a strategy for love, and this is something you can change, is you are going into sacrifice. And what that means is you are doing more hoping that you're going to get and receive in return. And
which is actually very feminine.
Yeah, it's actually very feminine.
That's where she's showing up in her feminine.
Right. But men are not reciprocal. I hate to say it. We're not reciprocal by nature. We're more efficient by nature. And we say, oh, you're handling that. You're taking care of all that stuff. I can relax and put my focus over here on the game or on, something else that I'm doing, right? That seems like that's a better use for my energy because my energy doesn't need to be doing the same thing your energy is doing. That would be inefficient.
If you're taking care of everything, Yvette, then why would a man ever step up and do the things that you're already taking care of? He goes, oh, like it's checked off the list.
Yeah.
So that, I have this pre-COVID, I have this conversation all the time at the salon, right? I'm in the salon getting my hair done. I had the same hairdresser for a very, very long time. And all the ladies are bitching about their husbands. And eventually my hairdresser will say something like, oh, Orna is never going to bitch about her husband. Right? It's so funny to me.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, why would I bitch about my husband here at the salon? Because none of you can do anything about it. Like if I have a problem with my husband, I'm going to talk to him about it.
Because misery loves
He's
company,
the only
right?
person. But
so everybody has to bond over the misery
at
of their
the salon
relationship.
because they're all bitching and drinking their wine and and bitching about their husbands at the at the dry bar or whatever. I mean, I'm just saying it's this thing where I want you to really get I'm going to say it another way. It's another way of saying the same thing. You're feeling angry and resentful because your needs aren't being met. Yeah. And when your needs aren't being met, and it's like trying to go without oxygen. At some point, you're like, I can't hold my breath any longer. So the minute you feel like you're angry and resentful, or angry or resentful, however it shows up for you, because for a lot of women, particularly, anger is not okay. Like a lot of us grew up in homes where anger was not an acceptable emotion to feel. And so what we want you to understand is this idea of being resentful means you have put the other person a priority over yourself. And that makes me wonder, like curiosity question, I'm going to put a question in. Do you know what you need? Do you know what you need? Because every single human being is fighting for love on their terms. And most of us have never figured out what our terms are. And so, Yvette, if you don't know where you draw the line to say, I'm not willing to go into sacrifice, right? We hear all that's another myth we like to bust. Like love isn't just magically happen when you least expect it. That's probably number one. Number two is that somehow love equals sacrifice. Love does not equal sacrifice. A dysfunctional love might equal sacrifice. But if you want a healthy, long-lasting, soul-satisfying love relationship with another imperfect human being, because you're imperfect too, and you want to just grow together and see life's challenges together and know that you can count on that person as sure as the sun will rise tomorrow, there's going to be some times where there's miscommunication, where you're angry at each other and all of that stuff. I'm not talking about those days. I'm talking about feeling angry and resentful because your needs aren't being met. Yeah. So it's important to know the difference between what you need and what you want. But we're talking tonight about mindset. So we're going to circle back to mindset.
Yeah, I want to go all the way back to the beginning here, these questions.
Sure.
So Jay says, I feel age eliminates me from men's awareness.
So Jay feels invisible.
Yeah.
And she blames her age.
And she blames her age on her feeling invisible.
But I would bet that she felt invisible long time ago.
Before she ever got to the age she's at today. Yeah. I would agree, because we're talking about mindset and how mindset affects the way we view the world. So we want to say it this way, Jay, and everybody else who's listening or watching, is that the world appears to you as you believe it to be. I'm going to say that again, because sometimes we go, huh? The world appears to you as you believe it to be. So if you want to know what you believe, look at how you experience the world, right? If you find that, everybody seems to be taking advantage of you and cutting in front of you and frustrating you and all of that, then look at your own beliefs about these events that are happening, because you're the one creating the meaning of them.
Yep.
So look at that story, Jay, of invisibility and where that comes from. And is that in your family of origin? And was that in your past relationships?
What is its root? So in other words, all of our emotions are like links in a chain. And you want to go all the way back to the first link. What set that as I'm invisible, right? I'm invisible. Because I don't know the age you are, and it doesn't really matter. But if you're saying it eliminates you, you're saying I'm invisible. I'm invisible. And it may be that you made the decision to be invisible.
Yeah.
Maybe
it
needed
felt
to
safe
be.
Do that.
Or maybe it wasn't safe to be visible.
Right.
I would say it opposite.
Yes.
Even though we're saying the same thing another way. But I think, when we all have different upbringings. And so I think there's some way along the way that you decided it was much more safe to be invisible than to be visible. And you haven't been able, you're still wearing your invisibility cloak. Like you made a choice to put it on at some point and you haven't decided to take it off. And so you're still showing up as invisible, at least to the men that you want to be visible for, right? Maybe you haven't really perfected taking your invisibility cloak on or off. Maybe there was some trauma that happened. And so you decided you needed to be invisible to certain men, which is very common.
If there is trauma, you definitely want to look at, doing some work to heal that trauma, so that you can feel safe being visible. Jane has a similar story about age, right? So Jane says, as a 67-year-old, there are 2 times the number of women as men in my city. So for older women, it is more challenging to meet a suitable partner for a mutually fulfilling relationship. Even though
I love all this logic.
Even though it is, of course, possible within the right skills and mindset, a challenge.
It's a challenge. So here's what I want to say about that. So what? I mean, you're saying there's 2 times the number of women than men. Okay.
Are they all single? Is this single men and women?
Yeah, I don't know that that's true. I mean, we've busted this myth literally over and over and over again. Like we've had clients where we had them go out to singles events and they come back to session when they're coaching with us and they'll say things like, oh, I went to that event and there were 5 times more women than there were men and everybody was vying for those men's attention, blah, blah. I was like, well, why don't you just make friends with the ladies? And they're like, well, why would I do that? And I go, because everybody you know knows people you have not met yet. So if you know all of this, I'm going to assume they're all single. I'm just going to make that assumption.
Okay. We're assuming all these.
We're going to take her
as many single women as single men. Okay.
2 times as many, for whatever reason. So we're going to take that as a fact. Some of those women have a brother, a cousin, a friend who maybe doesn't live in that city, but maybe just outside the city, maybe in the next town over, maybe just a short car ride away, or a train, or a bus, or a horseback ride. I'm just saying, like every single person you meet knows people you have not met yet. We have a client success story that we're super excited about. We've been coaching Amy for some time, and Amy lives in a small town, and she swore to us that the problem was where she lived.
It was.
According to her.
Yes. Exactly.
It was not, though.
It was not. No, it ultimately
wasn't. It was not
wasn't.
the problem. And she is now in this wonderful relationship that, it's like so cute, and we'll be getting all these pictures and stuff of them.
Well, what's fascinating is when she really started dating, after we'd done a lot of the work to get rid of all her stuff in her way, she suddenly discovered there were all kinds of men around her, and there were even men further away who were willing to travel to her. Right? Yeah. And it was like she had an abundance of all these men to choose from.
There was suddenly a ton of men to choose from, and the guy she's in a relationship with, they live in the same city. They live actually quite close to each other.
And he had actually reached out to her online before she started coaching with us.
And she didn't accept his offering.
Him, right?
She rejected him out of hand. She never even met him in person.
Nope.
She rejected him straight from the online, whatever it was that they met on.
And he circled around, came back, and here they are in a relationship. So I want to say something else about this, right? So there's 2 times as many women as men.
We think.
Right. And we're going to
single. We're going to say they're all single.
Let's accept the proposition is true, right? You only need to find one man who's looking for someone like you. You don't need to find all the men. You don't need to collect more men than the other women. You just need to find one man, right, who's going to go, oh, Jane, you're it for me, right? I like you. You're attractive. Let's go on a date, right? So one of the things you can do, we talk about strategies a lot, right? And so you might want to ask yourself, where are these late 60s, early 70-year-old men? And I'm assuming that they're still active, right? We're not talking about men who are, not doing well.
It's not that old.
Right. It's not that old. So I won't go there. So where are these 60, 65?
They're not octogenarians.
Where are these 65 to 75-year-old men? Where are they hanging out and what are they doing?
Where do they spend these single men? Where do they spend their time?
And I would guess that the places they spend their time, there's not a lot of women there in those places. Like Orna tells this great story.
I gotta tell it right now.
You go for it. I think it's a great story.
Okay, I'm going to tell the story in 2 seconds, but first I'm going to say hello, everybody. Thanks for joining us tonight. Thank you for joining us. This is Love Intervention, and I am Orna Walters.
And I am Matthew Walters, and we are here to intervene in your love life, to get you on the path to long-lasting, soul-satisfying love. Because
So-
that's what we think is possible for all of you. That's why we
Yes.
do this.
Well, that's exactly right. So please, if you're on Facebook, give us a like, a reaction, a love, a hate, whatever. I don't know, something. React to us there in the little thing where you see the live stream.
Yeah.
And give us a comment, a question. Our team will port it over here. If you're on YouTube, click the little bell, subscribe. You'll get notified when we're live next time. It's in 2 weeks, by the way. And you can put questions there. Our team, thank you, team, once again. They'll port your questions over here to the event page in Vimeo, which we are live streaming from. Here's the finding where the men are hanging out. So
Yeah.
this was a long time ago. I was in my 20s. It's the 90s for sure. And my friend Jennifer went to go purchase an item for a fella for like a birthday gift. Like I think it was a cousin or I don't know, not a romantic relationship, but she went to go buy a birthday gift. And this guy was really into golf. And there happened to be one of those, it's like a 3-par, it's like not a full golf course near us.
Right.
And so she went into the pro shop.
Right.
And literally called, we had no cell phones back then. So, we had to wait till she drove all the way home, I think. And she called 2 people. She called me and she called her friend Stacy. Now she called Stacy because Stacy could really play golf. And Jennifer had played golf also. And Jennifer and Stacy and I cooked up this thing because Jennifer's message was like this. Oh my gosh, I went into the pro shop at that little place on Whitsett where the golf stuff is. I don't think she knew what to call it.
Right.
And she's like, there were so many men there. There were all kinds of men. We're all single. Let's go. So Stacy and Jennifer and I
love this
decided to
story.
go meet at the driving range. We decided to meet at the driving range, which if you don't know, you basically get a bucket of balls and you get a club and you hit that thing as hard as you can and try to hit it straight as far as you can go. And here's the deal. I had never played golf. So Stacy gets up there and she's just phenomenal. She whack and it's straight and it goes far and it's awesome. You're like, ooh, that's really good. And then Jennifer gets up there and she hits it and it doesn't go as far as Stacy, but it still goes straight. And it's still, you're like, wow, she kind of knows what she's doing. And then there's me. And I'd never swung a club like that in my entire life. And I have no idea what I'm doing. And I miss the ball. And I miss it again. And then I just barely tap it and it moves 2 feet ahead of me. And I don't know what I'm doing. And suddenly more men than I could ever imagine are offering to help me fix my swing at the driving range. And yes, I got a boyfriend from the first time I went to that driving range with Stacy and Jennifer. Now, Stacy and Jennifer didn't get a boyfriend out of it, but I think they got some dates out of it. I'm just saying, go where these men hang out. Go and do what they do. Go find out where they hang and maybe grab a wing woman to go with you, or maybe not, right? Just depending on
Be the
how.
only woman there, right?
Yeah, whatever. Just the thing is it's not that hard to go and meet new people. And if you've eliminated, for whatever reason, these single men in your city for one reason or another, I don't know how many of them there are, is half of the number of women that are single.
Right.
And we're assuming that they're single. Maybe go slightly outside of your town and maybe, it's okay. I'm just saying that the way you're thinking about the problem, I love how there's all this logical stuff, that it's a challenge. And it's your mindset that's telling you it's a challenge. And I want to say, as a coach, because as a coach, we're always presenting challenges,
right?
That I want to give you 2 assignments. Number 1, find out where these men hang out, go there. You don't have to go alone. And number 2, here's another assignment. And anybody can do this. Take your device in case you need it, but do not be in your device. Take your device, but don't be in your device. And go this weekend to a coffee shop for a minimum of 4 hours.
Wow. Okay.
4 hours.
Everybody's going to think you're like a writer or something. You're hanging out for 4 hours at a coffee shop.
Well, our friend who's a sexologist who goes writes in the coffee shop where she was a client actually.
Right.
And a friend. And she gets all of these interesting comments on the books that she has on the table that she's working on because she is a writer.
And she's a sexologist.
And she's
so
a sexologist, so the books are all about sex. And
Yeah.
she gets a lot of interesting comments from the people that work at the coffee shop and people that come into the coffee shop. So here's your assignment. 4 hours.
And sit outside because,
Yeah, sit outside and bring with you something flimsy to read, like a magazine or blah, blah. Don't be in your device. Be in the world and smile and be open to meet people. Smile. Make eye contact.
And not just men, women.
Yeah, everybody. I'm
younger
saying
people,
the
children,
challenge. You
right?
said it's a challenge to not be meeting people. So I'm going to show you how to meet people you don't know. Go sit outside of a coffee shop. Do not be in your device, like literally like it doesn't exist, and don't even have the sound on, and literally be, flipping through a magazine or whatever. And every single person, man, woman, or child, make eye contact, smile, and say hello in some way.
I want to.
That's it. That's the whole assignment.
I want to say this piece about this though. I happen to be married to a person, the one right here, who makes friends wherever she goes. I don't care what we're doing or where we are. She's talking to strangers, right? And suddenly we're having these fascinating conversations with people that you never would have thought have happened because I happen to be married to a very curious person, right? Who's open and comfortable talking to strangers. And it's not that hard, right? You may think it's hard, but it's really about getting over your own, your own brain that's in your way and getting curious about other people. So if you're sitting there at the coffee shop and you're like smiling, but you're not saying anything and your energy's all closed off, right? It's not really going to get you anywhere. Instead, you got to be curious about people and maybe just go, wow, those are interesting shoes. What are those, right? Are they comfortable? They look comfortable, right?
Yes.
Right there,
whatever.
Somebody, if the other person is not just going to be like, huh, yeah, oh, thanks, right, and then turns away, you can ignore that person.
So what?
So what? But I guarantee you,
there will be some people.
Not just some. There will be a lot of people who will be like, oh, these
people.
shoes. Oh, I love these shoes. I got them at blah, blah, blah. And next thing you know, you're having a conversation with a stranger and you've met a new friend.
I was walking into the market with those UIN shoes that you bought me for my birthday a few years ago with the little flowers. They're like groovy, they look like 60s, those shoes.
I know.
And so I'm literally walking into the market, like when I went the other day, and these two guys are out front promoting like DARE. Remember the DARE, the thing in the schools or whatever?
Uh-huh.
And one of those two guys goes, wow, those are cool shoes. How long do you think I talked to them before I actually went into the market?
20 minutes at least.
Pretty close, like 17, I think it was a little more than 15. And like the thing is, I had to tell him because I was like, oh my gosh, these cool shoes, they're so cool. He's like, well, he has the phone already. He's like, well, where did you get them? I'm like, they're UIN and they have all these designs. And sometimes there's artwork that's like in the public domain and you can find all kinds and they have, men, and he's like, men's and women's, are they comfortable? And yes, and they're so lightweight and blah, blah, blah. And you can toss them in the washer if they get dirty. And yeah, I love those shoes. I mean, this is the thing.
I just want to say this. We are friends with the weatherman in Kansas City because Orna sat next to him on a flight.
From LA to Kansas City.
From LA to Kansas City.
Matthew's from Kansas City.
Yeah.
Yeah, this was over a decade ago.
So every time we go back to Kansas City, we have lunch with the weatherman.
Yeah.
We're good friends with him now.
It's from over a decade ago.
From over a decade ago, because she sat next to him on an airplane.
We took some of Matthew's family in for like the top of the 6 o'clock news to be in the control room, and they got to play with the
green screen.
Yeah, for the weather report and do the weather, and there's a cold front coming through, and I mean it was just hilarious. So make it fun. Make meeting people fun. Be curious about people. You cannot go through the dating process closed off and thinking somebody's gonna
scale the walls. They're gonna see you and see through all your defenses and see the beautiful person inside of there and go, it's worth it. I haven't met her yet, but it's worth it for me to scale those walls, right?
So swim through the alligator-filled
moat and
break
get
down
to the other side.
Yeah, climb the tower that she's up in. Like, no, that's not gonna happen that way. Just go meet people. I'm gonna say it again, it's so important. Every person you meet knows people you haven't met yet. I went to a Manifest Your Soulmate workshop in, I don't know what year, maybe 2006.
It was before me.
I know. And there was a woman who, at the end of it, said, Orna, I would love to set you up with my son. And normally, I remember that I would have been like, being set up was always kind of weird. But that summer, I was like, I'm just going to be open. Like, whoever, whatever. I asked friends to set me up. And so here was this virtual stranger. And I remember thinking to myself, I didn't even hesitate. I said yes to be set up with her son. For one reason, I thought, I want to meet the son who would let his mother set him up.
All right.
I thought that's got to be an interesting person. What kind of relationship must those two have that he was willing to go for?
He's comfortable to let his mother fix him up.
Yeah. Right. And I thought that was worth it to meet that human being. I have a friend who's married to the brother of a guy I met on JDate. I'm going to say it again. I have a friend whose brother is married to the guy I met on JDate. So I met this guy on JDate, and then he brought his brother, and I brought my friend along to the very first meet. It ended up being a double date first meet. Those two got married. Me and the guy, where we were a no.
Yeah.
But those two got married because we met on JDate.
Right.
They would not have met each other any other way.
That's awesome.
I know. So everybody you meet, those people you haven't met yet, you got to get curious, people. And honestly, being curious about yourself first actually helps. Yeah. You know, we were talking about Amy, who has a boyfriend now,
right.
This lovely boyfriend in the town. She was like, there's nobody to date in my town. And then, right. I mean, like literally with it, we busted
crawling out of the woodwork.
Oh, everywhere. She was like, holy moly. She's like, I've never had this many dates. It happens all the time. And what I want to say, so it's not where you live, it's not how old you are, but I want to say that when we're actually working with a client over time, we don't start with dating, because the most important relationship that you're ever going to have is the one that you have with yourself. And that's why we're talking about mindset, because how you're thinking about the problem is part of the problem. And I started to say something earlier, and then we introduced the love intervention thing, and I never got back to it. So there's an Einstein quote. That was my chance to circle back.
Yeah.
I'm rhyming in our own love intervention. I couldn't have written the script any better. I love it. So I'm a writer, so I know writing terms. Okay, here's the deal. Einstein has a quote, and it says, and I'm not going to get it exactly right, sorry, because I don't have a script. But Einstein has this really famous quote that says, if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, you would think that fish isn't very capable or something.
You're going to judge all fish badly or something.
Yeah, all fish are
You can't judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree. I think is the quote.
I think that's the quote. Say it again.
You can't judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree.
Right. So if you have been struggling to have the love you want, then you have to look inward before looking outward. And what I mean by that is your mindset, your limiting beliefs. And you guys gave us so many good questions tonight. I'm just so grateful, because we want you to understand that how you're thinking about the problem is part of the problem. And also thinking that you have a problem that is out of your control only feeds your apathy and your fear, right? Thinking that the problem is something outside of your control
only feeds your apathy and your fear.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, there's so many things you can't control, but there's 3 things, very powerful things, and we've been talking about them today, that you have complete control of. Number 1, what you think.
Yes.
Number 2, how you feel.
Yes.
And number 3, what you do.
Amen.
You can control how you think, feel, and do, and that's all the power in the world right there. If you can get control of your mindset, and you can not allow yourself to get derailed by your feelings, and you can take appropriate actions towards the thing you want, there is nothing you can't create or manifest in your life. All right. So I want to thank everybody for being here. This was a really great call tonight. Great questions.
Yeah.
Great interaction. This is Love Intervention. And that is
Orna Walters.
And I am Matthew Walters. And we're here every other week to intervene in your love life.
I thought it'd be funny if we do it the other way around. Like I go, this is Matthew Walters.
Oh, and this is Orna Walters.
And this is Love Intervention. That'd be fun.
That would be fun.
So listen, we'll be back in 2 weeks. We're taking your questions live. That's what we do here on Love Intervention. You're welcome. And we'll be back in 2 weeks on July 19th, same time, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern. We're always taking your questions live, and we are here to help you get the love you want.